5 sugar companies, and it said expected to sell 75% stakes in transactions to be completed within the next 9 to 12 months. And of course, those 5 companies, Zoya, South Nyanza, Chamulu, Moroni, and Miwani, are all in need of modernization to survive competition and entry of other players as well. Now, the deal is to sell and privatize them, and we want to talk about how viable is that deal. How viable is the deal to privatize the sugar sector? And we're talking about that sugar sector bailout this morning. Mutegi Njau hosts the former planning minister, Henry Obwocha, who is now the chairman of the Privatisation Commission, and they're going to be talking about this. If you want to join the conversation, the SMS number is 22422. What are your thoughts on the sugar sector bailout? And also, that is 22422, your questions, your views, and your comments on the same. I hand you over now to Mutegi.
Mheshimiwa, karibu. How are you?
Asante sana Mtegi.
Now, the president made some statement on Friday when he was at the show, the international fair, Nairobi International Fair, Trade Fair.
Yeah.
And he gave some figures and facts about what the government is doing to facilitate, to enable the privatization of the government sugar companies. What is the impact of that statement from the president as far as your commission is concerned?
Well, as you know, the privatization process, particularly in the sugar industry, comprises of the 5 sugar companies. That is Sony, South Nyanza Sugar Company, 3 in the Kisumu, Nandi, and the Kericho area. That's Miwani, which is in receivership. Moroni, which is also in receivership but working. Chemilil. And then the 5th one is Nzoia. Now, this program started way back in 2008 to try and privatize the companies, particularly in the areas of modernizing the machinery, that's modern technology, to try and see if they can produce the sugar not as costly as it is at the moment, and try and see if they can improve the production of sugar in terms of helping the farmers. Now, what the president said is a process that had been carried on from 2009 by cabinet and parliament, approving the write-off of debts. These 5 companies are they have huge debt, and before you privatize them, or if people who want to buy and run them, of course they cannot take them in the current format. Therefore, what the president said is that the debts owed by these 5 sugar companies, which total 39.7
billion shillings.
39.7 billion Kenya shillings. Not all of them are indebted heavily, but the one that is indebted is Nzoia, which is in excess of 29 or 28 billion. Then the rest, that is Miwani, Chemilil, Moroni, and about 1 billion in Sony. So government, through cabinet and parliament, had agreed to write these ones off. But the president went further and said, in so doing, when this process is going on, he will try and see if he can help the sugarcane farmers. And he did announce that they will be given credit of 2 billion. 1.5 will go into rehabilitation of the factories. He also did announce that the cane development will be given about 1.2 billion plus equipment that will facilitate this process. So he did actually help or announce intentions by government to try and help these farmers. As you know, the greatest problem for the farmers is the cane production. First of all, the varieties don't have enough, for example, sucrose content, so the varieties are not adequate. Of course, the Kenya Sugar Research is doing it, but the sugarcane, the content, the sucrose content is extremely low. Then the actual growing of the sugarcane, the access to fertilizer, it takes also long for the cane to mature, and then the actual transportation from the farms, particularly the nucleus, to the factories, very expensive. So part of this money is that will go to help the farmers do that.
People may be very skeptical about that use of that money. They may think that is throwing good money into bad. It's wasting money. Why? Because what is the prospect that we have now written off the debt? You'll get a buyer. People have come to that region, companies, Metas, who name them, Americans, Germans. They have come there trying to do the sugar thing and gone back, gone away. They don't make money, they won't make money, so they abandon. What is the prospect that we're going to get a buyer?
Basically,
what kind of a buyer?
When you sell your cow, you feed it first, and then see if you can get a buyer. At the moment, in my own view, the process of trying to get a buyer is from the 2009 consultations has been going on.
With who?
With the farmers.
The farmers want to buy the factories? Or you are getting people from outside or private sector?
No. The format in which this is going to be done, it's on a session of paper number 2 of 2012.
Yes.
Debt write-off of the sugar controlled companies.
That has happened now with the president announcement?
Announcement.
Yes. Next.
The next one is the new constitution demands that the commission does do consultation with the farmers, all stakeholders, by the way. We started with state agencies that deal with the farmers, from the Ministry of Agriculture and all the agencies that deal with the Kenya Sugar Board, the research and so on. Then we have done consultations with members of parliament and the Senate. We haven't finished completely because we are going to talk to them. From there, we have gone to the 5 sugar companies. Unfortunately for us, when we did the 5, all the 4, that is Sony, Miwani, Chemilil and Moroni, accepted that we can go on with this process. But when we went to Nzoia Sugar Company, the farmers said no. And they are the people who have the largest debt. Actually, they are the ones who actually require the debt write-off more than any other company. Now, from the consultations, in accordance with that program, we are going to go to what we call expression of interest. We also, as a commission, contracted consultants. In our case, we have done with Ernst & Young. You know, the Ernst & Young is among the top 5, Deloitte, Pricewaterhouse and so on. They are the ones we have taken. They have done due diligence on all these factories, what they own, how big the nucleus is, and so on. So, and we have certain limits we put. If we're going to have somebody to revive these sugar companies, they must have run a sugar company successfully on profitable basis for more than 10 to 20 years. So the process now that is left is to put out the expression of interest and see what kind of people want to buy these sugar companies. Then we'll move to the bidding. At the bidding, at the expression of interest stage, you will see what kind of people who will come on. So I cannot say really basically it's good business if people do their due diligence and if they have been in the sugar industry. So we can talk of many examples anyway, but that's the process that we are on.
The issue about sugar production in Western Kenya is that smallholder growers, the infrastructure and the holdings that they are not viable. Sugar companies that succeed are the ones with plantations. It's world over. In Sudan here next door, in Brazil, all over the world, Cuba. There are people who are plantation. Smallholder doesn't work. So even if you expect buyers to come, they will say, before I come, I need to get a minimum number of acreage that I am assured of. So what are we going to do about that?
We have already dealt with that. With the 5, when due diligence was done, the minimum that a factory or a sugar company should have is 30,000 hectares to be able to break even and go into profit making. Now,
so are you providing 30,000 hectares per factory?
I'll tell you the current
to be run by the factory itself, not smallholder growers.
No, the manner in which we have done it is that there are 3 factories that have sufficient acreage
of guaranteed sugar.
Of guaranteed sugar. Sony has over 40,000.
Yes.
Nzoia has over 32,000 hectares. Now, Mohoroni and Chemilil, if you confine them to their nucleus, they have over 40,000 hectares. The only one that has also what you're talking about, the small scale is Miwani. But Miwani has a problem. Currently there there's a battle between the farmers and the people who claim to have taken the land. So that is in court. I cannot comment about it. But we have zoned them. And there is a new regulatory framework which has zoned them that if somebody comes in, this is the area he's going to deal with. Even if though the small-scale sugar farmers are there, that will be his nucleus. The only problem we are facing, and this should be told to you by the Minister of Agriculture, is that we have small sugarcane factories coming up. For example, in Sony, there is one in Transmara. In Kisumu, there is Kibos. So these ones are basically poaching.
Yes.
They are poaching sugarcane. So those are the problems, but those will be they will be dealt with by the ministry through the regulations that they are putting up. There are other regulations that are coming up. How sugarcane, for example, is going to be paid in accordance, like pyrethrum used to be paid in accordance with the pyrethrin contents. They are going to be paid in accordance with sucrose. But there are other issues how a farmer will be paid. We are going to encourage, for example, the sugarcane factories to produce ethanol and other products from bagasse, for example, and so on, so that then the calculation of how the farmer is paid is through the sale of those by the factory, not only the sugar. And you know that's what Brazil does. People think that there is a lot of sugar coming from Brazil. Basically, it's not true. Brazil produces a lot of those other products, like ethanol. That is now, there is also regulations that ethanol should be mixed with petrol. So from that they earn, for example.
Ordinary people think that worldwide sugar produced elsewhere in the world is cheaper than sugar produced in this country. Why would you want to continue as a consumer? Why should I continue buying expensive sugar when I can get cheap sugar from Brazil or from Ethiopia or from Sudan or anywhere else? Why continue?
Basically, that's the reason why we want to privatize. Get a person who can bring in new technology, produce this sugar cheaply, and then sell it to the Kenyans cheaply. What government does not want to do is to destroy the sugar industry. There are over 6 million people depending on this. So the best way to do is try and improve the production, both from the cane production up to the production in the factories.
Other people think otherwise. These people should go in to grow other crops. If you find the Kiambu used to be coffee growing, Kiambu now is an estate.
Yeah.
Because the surrounding environment, the environment does not encourage people to grow coffee. Because coffee prices in the world have shrunk to an estate. You convert your sugar all the way to Giri, all these places. It's now an estate for building property.
Yeah.
Tatu City is going to be built in a coffee estate. Why would the people in Western Kenya insist on growing sugar, which takes for 2 years, 18 months before you grow the cane? Why can't you grow horticulture or keep beef animals or milk, dairy, cattle?
I think what has not been done is by the people, the experts in agriculture, to tell us what are the alternative crops.
There must be some alternative.
Yeah. What kind of alternative crops should these farmers go into? I think if that is done, then you educate the farmers.
Because really, the argument here is about 6 million people relying on sugar.
Yeah.
The 6 million people don't have to rely on sugar. You can close those factories.
Of course, I agree with you, but you must give them viable alternatives of the crops they must grow. This is a commercial crop that gives them money to educate their children, to do other things from their earnings.
You see, the acreage has been deteriorated.
Yeah.
Because of population growth. Somebody has 3 sons. They divide where the sugar farm, which was that acres, you give each one of them 10. They start building houses there, not growing sugar. So the acreage infrastructure becomes worse.
Correct. Because
of populations, the roads are not there, the tractors, and it is not viable. Some people argue.
Well, people do it. You've gone to Mauritius. Mauritius is basically almost all of it is an estate of a nucleus of sugar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not small-scale farmers.
Well, there are small-scale farmers, but there are not many.
Exactly.
I would say.
That's what I'm saying. Ours is basically small-scale, not estate.
Yeah.
Sudan here is an estate.
Yeah. But if all of them grow sugar, you can make it a zone of sugar production. And that's what, for example, Miwani is doing. The farmers in Nyando who produce sugar, and you know the area, really basically, the alternative is rice, for example, for them in Nyando. I think the alternative is, if our experts say this is the alternative crop, then I think the farmers would go into it. But the issue of the nucleus, you can actually turn those farmers in their own zone to be a nucleus. Yeah. So, but I think those are, we're not closing our eyes to new ideas. I think those are alternative views, which of course we have also heard from the other people. Not everybody is supporting that these farmers should go on with the production of sugar. So, but this is, I think, within the purview of the Minister of Agriculture, in my own view.
Private sugar companies owned by private people in that region make profit, but
yes,
government one don't.
Yes, they do.
There is an element of mismanagement and corruption. What are we doing to punish those people who have been mismanaged them, the factories, and those people who have been corrupt? We just don't give our money. We have privatized. The other day we gave Mumias, I don't know how much, 5 billion or whatever number of shillings they were given. Now the government, we taxpayers have written off that money which is owed to us. What are we doing to punish or to sanction those people who messed up?
Basically, in my own view, the remedy, of course, is the government to surrender its own share to run those factories. In the current format, which we are using to privatize this, is 51% is going to go to the private investor. That's the person we want to take responsibility of the running of that sugar company or factory.
And that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
That person you will not get. Because if the same smallholder and the same poaching we're talking about, why would I want to come and put my money where there's no money coming up? Why would I invest in a place where there will be no return? And as I told you before, many people have attempted. In fact, most of those factories used to be owned by private companies. The runaway government took over to save the farmer.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Kilometers were there.
Yeah, I know.
So they ran away because there was no money coming.
That's right.
So the government comes and say, okay, because of the farmer, we put our money there. And we have been wasting our money all throughout.
No, but you know, the problem is management. You have already said it.
Yes.
The management is that, for example, when we were being asked, are you going to take us the Mumias way? Now, Mumias, initially when we privatized it, it took almost 10 years being run well until management changed. So in my own view, really, management is key to the success of these companies. But what we have done is the 51%, leave the 51% which is going to go to the private investor. We want the farmers themselves to run those sugar companies. The government or the Privatization Commission has in that sessional paper 24%, the initial one, is going to go to the farmers. The moment they pay for the 24%, we will take it to 30%.
Well, the farmers get money to pay the 24%.
Well, the farmers, for example, I can give you an example. The farmers in South Nyanza, Sony, who are over 20,000. If you divide the amount of money that we want them to raise, basically, if in 3 years they are supposed to raise 2,000 shillings. I mean, in your own view, we know our people are poor, but 2,000 is not too much to raise in 3 years. So they can be able actually to raise more. So all we are saying is we want finally the farmer to run this company, the sugar companies, so that then if somebody messes up or if they are not running it properly, they can replace management through their own board. If the private investor has 51% with these 4 or 5 directors, and the farmers finally, if they take the 49, they will also have about 4 or 5. Those are the people who run their company. Those are the people who declare the profits to the farmers. So they will run it like other private companies, Kenya breweries, from the production of barley and so on. So really, basically, we are saying that management should be monitored by the board.
Somebody says that, like I was asking you, that the problem with these companies is that the management and is taken to the old ways of production of sugar. Says that West Kenya Sugar Company can supply sugar to all supermarkets in the country, but not those. The one company, West Sugar, makes a lot of money, but those 5 make nothing.
We know the private companies that produce sugar are fairly successful. And the Transmara one I've told you is fairly successful. Kibos is, and even West Kenya. That's why we want to transform these others to compete with them. If there is competition, if we produce this sugar competitively, the prices, the people of Kenya are going to benefit. It's going to be affordable.
Somebody says Miwani Sugar Company died many years ago.
That's true.
Why are you talking about Miwani being functional?
Miwani is not functional. I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said Miwani is in receivership.
Yeah.
We were even there. The farmers said we wanted this privatization like yesterday. They want us to get a person to bring in a new factory. If you went to Miwani, Miwani is dead. There is no machinery in that factory. The machinery, you know, Miwani was established in 1922. It was the first, one of the first factories in Kenya. So it is, of course, the first one was Ramisi, but this was one of the first ones. Yeah. So it is dead. I didn't say that it's working.
The truth of the matter is that sugar is a political crop. apart from growing. Come elections, because sugar in Kenya is more expensive than, and we don't produce enough anyway.
Yeah.
Come elections, sugar barons will bring sugar here, with the association with politicians, make money for campaigns. Some of it comes through Kismayu, through the northern Kenya. Others, sugar comes from the port of Mombasa. What guarantee if I was to invest my money in buying this, that 51%, what guarantee is there will I have that people will not bring sugar and dump it here, and therefore the locally produced sugar will not get anywhere to be sold?
I think there is a new regime of regulations coming up, how to control those ones.
Regulations are there, but corruption, smuggling.
Yes, corruption is a disease for you, Mutegi, and myself. So we must know Kenyans how to deal with these corruption issues. At least we must minimize all those issues. Crime will never go away from society. Crime is always there. But you must minimize it so that society can progress.
Somebody is saying, look, Obwocha, what lessons have been learned from the privatization of Kenya Railways, Mumia Sugar, Telecom Kenya? Is the government going to pay off the workers who wish to leave this escape from Bungoma?
Of course, number one, the lesson first. The lesson is that all these things, if run properly by a good management, they are successful. Kenya Airways has been successful. Well, it never died in the first 10 years when we privatized it.
Yes.
And the others, even we privatized Safaricom. Safaricom now is one of the best. It's not one of the best, it's the best. Because of, for example, the profit they're making. Over 20 billion shillings in a year. So basically, all we are saying is, if these are run properly, then the country will go somewhere. Why is Kenya Breweries making profit all the day, all the time? It's because it's being run well. It's good management. So all we are saying is, an eye on management would do the work. So, but I must react to the Bungoma man who has asked, yes, if you are, all the workers are not going to be retrenched. We have no intention of retrenching, because in that 30% we are surrendering to the farmers, it includes management. So management will buy shares and the farmers together. So, and it's going now, because of the Mumia's example, we're not going to leave it in the stock exchange, where everybody runs to sell his shares, and you find the farmer has no control of that sugar company like Mumia's. So we are forming a trust through the regulations. They're forming a trust, and they will trade them. So if there are 20,000 farmers, they will be trading their shares, and the management, of course, they will be trading within that trust.
Not through the Nairobi Stock Exchange?
Not Nairobi Stock Exchange.
And the reason is?
The reason is that all the farmers, the 20,000 farmers, if they buy the shares, they go to the Nairobi Stock Exchange, they sell all their shares, and then they have no control of their sugar company. That's really basically the reason.
So what are we doing to attract investors? Apart from that document you said it was written by management consultants.
Yeah.
Who are we talking to? What are the prospects of getting these investors? That's my main concern.
Well, the expression of interest, of course, we are going to put it in both local and international papers. We will see who comes. We have nobody in mind. We have not set ourselves to who can. But you know, the countries that produce sugar successfully. That Mauritius I was talking, part of it is the one that has invested in Transmara. And they're doing very well, I can tell you. They're doing very well.
And what do you do with the obsolete machinery that is there?
Obsolete machinery, the factory itself will sell.
To who?
As scrap. Because like Miwani, there is nothing there you can talk about. Yeah. You can sell it as scrap. But we want them to install a brand new factory with new technology. Yeah.
How much money is expected when the government sells that? What do we expect to get? What according to
the government in that paper?
When the government sells that holding that it has in those 5 sugar companies? How much money do we expect?
The government does not intend to take the money that we sell these sugar companies directly. They want to reinvest that money in the sugar company, so that then the sugar company still becomes viable. If you sell it and take the money to treasury, then you are leaving them bankrupt. So,
but the government has no interest in that company anymore. It will be a private company owned by the investor plus the farmers.
The company, the structure I've told you, is that the government will be left with 19%.
Oh, 19%.
Yeah, 51% to the private investor, 30%
to the farmer.
To the farmer, and 19% to government. So government initially will have some little control, just to see that the process over the first 5 years or so is done well. So the government still will be interested in.
Finally, what would you like to tell the farmers there that because privatization is coming? I don't know why it hasn't happened today.
Yeah.
Because it was long overdue.
Yeah.
What would you like to tell the farmers there?
I would like to say this. Number one, I want to encourage the farmers from Nzoia. That big debt that the government has agreed to write off, they should take that first opportunity to take that load out of their backs. So, in this privatization, Nzoia is not one of them now, because they said no. For the other farmers, what we really want to say is they should now try and get together to try and see if they can form this trust and see how they can mobilize their resources among themselves, how to raise the money. So that then, when we get an investor, they join together to try and get this factory moving as soon as possible. But if they delay, then it will take another 3, 4, 5 years, and that would not have helped the sugarcane farmer. That's all I want to say.
You have addressed the issue of the private investor, the government, and the farmers.
Yes.
What about ordinary Kenyan who are consumers who might want to put the money in the factories? Suppose I had my million and I want to buy some Zoya, part of Zoya. Ordinary people, not the farmers there, but ordinary investors.
At the moment, we have not invited them. We are giving the farmer a chance to try and rectify his own factory. So that's where we are at the moment.
But you know, there are a lot of Kenyans who have a lot of money. When IPOs are launched, you always find they are oversubscribed.
I know.
I don't know why you're not inviting other Kenyans.
No. I know. We actually don't. There are many. You have just said it about the sugar barons who have made a lot of billions or millions, who will come and buy that factory, and in the process, if you think they are going to improve the conditions and so on, within 2-3 years he has sold it again for profit. That's not what we are aiming as government, or as a commission. At least that's what we would like to avoid at the moment. The
concern here was raised about investors. You have set criteria about who to invest. But we have been conned before. When we privatized, we have been conned during privatization. Kenya Railway, for instance, somebody mentioned.
Yeah.
Somebody said, oh, you know, some South African fellow, some con money from South Africa came. The same thing with the refineries. Some Indian fellows came and took off. What assurance is there that will not get con money coming and saying...
No, the refinery was being sold direct by the ministry. It was not the commission. So we were not involved in that.
No, I'm saying, as Kenyans, we may be conned again.
The commission has certain rules when you want to sell a government parastatal. There are certain rules set. So you must follow those procedures, and those are the ones we are following at the moment ourselves.
Thank you very much, Bwana Obwocha.
Thank you, Mutegi.
I think you run out of time.
This has been a nice
It was good discussion, yes.
Yeah.
And from the sugar